Well, this is part this is part you don't normally see. Usually bring you guys into the mix when I'm already sitting in the airplane. But we have a special passenger today. Today we'll be flying with Air Force Lieutenant Keith Stock. He's the son of Pete Stock, who's a guy that helped me out tremendously back when I was building the plane. And in the interim, Keith has gotten through his college. He got into a pilot slot with the Air Force, and he's currently flying a co-pilot in A3, is it A3? E-3. E-3 Sentry, which I think everybody universally knows as AWACS. The big 4-engine Boeing with the big giant radar dish on top. He'll be flying with me today, which should be interesting. I'm going to let him do all the flying, primarily because being an Air Force pilot, their standards on altitude and such forth, plus or minus 0 feet. My standards on altitude, not nearly that tight. Basically avoiding the ground is what I shoot for. So I don't want him, I just don't want to be humiliated in front of a professional military pilot. That's a pretty big deal. So we're flying up to Port Clinton. And the reason for going to Port Clinton is twofold. One is they have a very nice diner. It's built into an old actual dining car, those things that they had back in the day. I think they were retired railroad restaurant cars they made diners out of. And then at some point somebody started just making the diners. They're almost like Airstream campers, nice aluminum things. So they have one of those, nicely restored and extended. They put a bit of an L off of it to hold the zillions of people that go there. They actually had to make a bigger parking ramp. As all the airplanes, there's no place for them to park on the weekends. Today's a Friday, which hopefully will make it a little less crowded because we're not going to get up there until about 10 o'clock and have a brunch. The other reason to go up there is it's very close to our islands. Ohio has some islands out in Lake Erie, the most popular of which, to the degree that it's basically an island-based frat party during the season, is Middle Bass Island, which has a town called Put-in Bay, Put-in-Bay. Boaters love it. So summer is a big deal up there. There's ferries that go back and forth for the land-bound people to get out there. But this being after Labor Day, I'm hoping a lot of that is gone, that high tourism. And we can just have a little wander around, maybe walk around a little bit, look at scenery, and then fly back. So that's the plan for the day. Hope you enjoy riding along with us. I'll probably have some interesting questions. I think there's a lot of significant differences between flying a 4-engine Boeing and basically a lawnmower with wings. So stay tuned. Being military, he's probably used to having the airplane all nicely cleaned up and set up for him by the crew chief or crew chiefs, maybe on an airplane that big. So just to make him feel at home, I'm getting this thing very regimented. So he's got his straps all laid out. Headsets are set up. There's the little power control for the A&R. I'm going to let him fly on the left, as I mentioned before. And then I've got my setup over here, which is the GoPro headband, all wired in for sound, because I always forget that. And my headsets, which are they're good. They're Dave Clark's, but they're not quite as good as the other ones. But I'm a good host. So we're all set up, ready to go. He should be here in about 15 minutes if the military has also managed to teach him punctuality. See you in a bit.
There. Now we're recording.
Nice. Master's on.
All right, we don't need this all the way up, so I'll take that down here. Perch it like that. It's your job to not forget to latch that.
Got it.
It's on the checklist. Twice. Cool. Twice.
Nice.
It's so important it's twice. All right. All right, Lieutenant. We're about ready. We're going to wait for that to get going, but you can check the fuel. So your first engine pre-start item is check that there's 4 gallons minimum fuel. The way you do that is look over your right shoulder. There's a tank gauge. It should be all the way up. It should be full. I just filled it up to the neck, so that should be good.
That's all full.
So that certainly meets the 4-gallon minimum. Passenger briefing. This is an experimental airplane. It does not comply with federal safety regulations for standard aircraft.
Air 4 Hotel Delta, you can proceed to the ramp. Landing will be at your own risk. Landing on controlled moving area. WINCOM.
Okay. Fuel valve open. That's this down here. It's open when it's pushed all the way down.
Cool.
Closed down would be kind of stupid, right?
Yeah.
You actually step on that. Hey, what'd you do? I don't know. Yeah. So that's good.
Yep.
Throttle adjust friction. We really don't have to mess with that anymore. That's the vernier throttle now. The original throttle that came with it had that two big huge return springs on the carburetor, and the thing was always trying to creep forward, so you're constantly dealing with the friction. With this one, you don't much have to deal with it. Master on, we've already done that. Ignition both on, so that's A and B. Okay. Avionics on, they're already on. I tend to leave them on. Actually, whether it's a cold start or a warm start, the throttle has to be fully closed for the choke to work. So make sure that's all the way out. Just tug on it all the way out. Okay. Now it is a cold start, even though it's 75 degrees out. The engine is relatively cold.
Right.
So we're going to choke, and the way you do the choke is it's counterclockwise 90 degrees back, and then clockwise back to the right. So it's just like this, like that. So now choke is on.
Nifty.
Brakes hold, propeller clear. Yep.
Clear.
Start key engage. Okay, it starts just like a car.
Okay.
It may be a little bit rough. I'll manage the throttles for the first few minutes there.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Warning.
Now we're seeing oil pressure. That's good. So we'll continue with the start. Now that roughness is from the choke. You gotta get that. You get that choke off as soon as the engine will keep itself running.
Got it.
Because it's running very, very rich when you have that on.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
Cool.
We got fuel pressure, throttle 2,500 RPM max. So we'll keep it in that green arc. It's a little tricky on taxiing. That way you have to really manage your momentum because it's not going to kill us to go out of the green, but you don't want to make a habit of it.
Right.
So you just kind of let it coast.
Yeah.
Good morning, Bolton Ground. Experimental 284 Delta Golf at the T. Hangars ready to taxi.
284 Delta Golf, Bolton Ground, runway 4-cat taxi via taxiway Bravo Alpha, WindCom, altimeter 3010.
Runway 4 via Bravo Alpha, WindCom for 4 Delta Golf.
All right, you want to try taxiing it?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
Runway 4 in use, WindCom,
Your airplane.
My airplane.
Now it's just get the feel for that. There's no swiveling nose wheel here. It's going to be brakes.
Got it.
So it's a very light kind of, you got to catch it early. If it gets too far, then you got to kind of stab at the brakes. There goes your momentum. So you're going to want to kind of drag a brake.
Okay.
And see if you can get it rolling by keeping it just below 2,500. Yep, it's starting already. It's starting already. There you go. So don't do anything yet. So you're going to need a little turn to the right, but get some speed up.
Okay.
And now you should be able to just very lightly drag the top of the right pedal. That's it. Feel that?
Nice.
If you can keep it that way, you don't lose a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
It's when you make these tighter turns, you may have to give it a little jab, and then it tends to slow down. But you still have some RPM in the bank. You could go a little higher if you need to. And I'm going to go ahead and shut this off till we get to the end of the runway because this part's really, really boring.
Yeah.
All right, I got to talk to YouTube for a minute.
Okay.
So what you missed on the way out was Keith was talking about taxiing what's essentially a Boeing 707.
Left to Alpha 3.
What was it, you're 20 feet in front of the nose wheel?
Yeah.
30 feet high?
Yep.
And the tiller is, what was the word we used? Sensitive?
Very sensitive, yeah.
Takes some getting used to. Is this a normal taxi speed? I mean, do you kind of poke them along, or?
Yeah, so the rule for taxiing the E-3, kind of a technique, is match the RCR, so the runway surface condition.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So if it's 23, which is normal for a dry runway, then that's about what you do knot-wise. Since this is your aircraft, I didn't want to taxi too much.
So RCR, the lower the number, the slicker it is?
Yes.
So you get a really icy day, it's maybe a 5, so you're going to taxi about 5 knots?
Right. Yeah, actually, icy is considered at 10.
Okay.
And we won't generally go below that, except for life or death.
Because that's going to add a couple hours to an already long flight. It's a typical flight. Well, so are you doing training flights or missions?
I just finished my co-pilot check ride last week.
Okay.
And Q1 that, so I'm on to my line squadron, where I'll be just doing co-pilot type duties, helping out driving the mission.
Understand the missions are rather lengthy.
Yeah,
or can be anyway.
Yeah, one of our short missions is about 7 hours, and we have the ability to fly upwards 18, 24 hours.
Now you're carrying 2 crews when you do that, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I know a U-2 pilot can be expected to have a 12-hour mission, but there's no choice there. You guys have a choice.
Yeah, we have cots in the back.
All right, don't get that too low. You want to keep that up in the green.
Okay, got it.
Okay. So before takeoff, brakes hold. Flight controls check. This almost always works. Today's a good day. Good. It actually worked.
They look good to me.
Flight instruments check and set. Now there's not much to do since there's no mag compass, there's no precession of the gyros, so we don't worry about the gyros. So basically, what I use that for is remind me to check the trim.
Okay.
Remind me to have a course laid in, which we do. That's your purple line. It's going to work. Cool. You have an HSI, right? It's mechanical HSI.
Right.
It's going to work just like that.
Cool.
So there's not much to check there. Fuel valve check open in case it popped up on the way out. Fuel quantity indication, That's in case you burned 16 gallons on the way out here. Minimum oil temp 122. We've got that in spades, 149. Okay, so here's the run up. So what we're going to do, hold the stick back just a wee bit, and you're going to take the throttle up to 4,000 RPM. And don't use the vernier because it'll take forever, so just run it on up. It's very much like a mag check what you used to do with the keys, except you're going to do it with the switches.
Oh yeah, a mighty Rotex power.
Right. So turn off your A switch. Look for about 100 RPM drop. That's good. Perfect. B. That's good.
Nice.
And while we're up there, let's check all the oil pressures and such. So you got good solid oil pressure, good solid oil temp. Amps are still charging pretty heavily, so hopefully that's going to that Skyview battery.
Yeah.
And I don't know where else it would be going. Trim, okay, we can pull back to idle. And that's just going to be the bottom of the green arc.
You probably all do this by feel these days.
Yeah. And anytime you may feel a little roughness here. Where that comes from, the carbs will get balanced at annual, so they may be a little bit out. That's where you feel that is at idle. You won't feel that at full power.
Got it.
And the prop, I'll probably check the prop pitch again to make sure the blades are equal. They don't really hardly ever move, but when you're at annual, you're tearing everything apart anyway.
Sure.
So trim set for takeoff. That looks good.
Agreed.
Flaps are set. That means up for the most part. You can use one notch of flaps on a soft field or whatever.
Sure.
You might want to get a feel for this flap control. It's push that way. There you go. There's 2 clicks. Now don't pull up until you get the button in.
Got it.
There you go. There's 2 clicks. Go all the way up. If you're landing flaps, you would pull the button, go all the way up, and then move it till it clicks in place. There. Okay. You want it clicked in.
Cool.
So put it back up.
And those are full span flaps.
Yeah, those are flaperons. Cool. So as they're out there, they're still acting as ailerons. There, you got that clip. Good.
Cool.
Okay, that was flap set for takeoff. Canopy check latched. We keep checking the canopy because we're extraordinarily paranoid about it.
Roger,
looks good.
2 mile final, runway 4.
Uses a check, they're all good. They will light up if they're blown.
Nice.
Fuel pressure should still be good. 5.3, I told you that was going to run up high because of how much gas we have. Seatbelt, passenger, we're all fastened in. We're all ready to go. All right, so the takeoff, like most nose wheel airplanes, the nose wheel is not the strongest part of the airplane.
Right.
So on these, they're notably weaker than maybe something out like a 152 that was built to be abused.
Sure.
So what we do on takeoff is basically going to be like a soft field takeoff. I'm going to have the stick all the way back.
Okay.
Early on, I'm going to be steering with the brakes.
Sure.
As soon as I feel back pressure on the stick and that nose starts to come up, that means there's enough air across that rudder that I can start steering with the rudders.
Nice.
And I'm just going to kind of hold the nose up, maybe 10 degrees or so, and ease off to hold it there, and it'll just fly off all by itself.
Cool.
I don't know how far away that guy cleared to land
I heard
was.
12 miles.
Oh, yeah, okay, he's an instrument approach. So we're ready to go. My airplane.
Your airplane.
Full tower, experimental 284 Delta Golf, ready for takeoff, running forward, Alpha 6, departing VFR northbound.
284 Delta Golf, Bone Tower,
He was ready.
on course, runway 4, clear for takeoff, traffic inbound, inside a 5 mile final.
And clear for takeoff, running forward, north departure.
And I believe that traffic's 5 miles behind us.
5746, traffic on the runway 4 departure.
He's 5 miles behind us, he'll never see us. Cool. We're off before that first taxiway. It doesn't take 1,000 feet to get this thing in the air.
Love it. Takes 1,000 feet just for this line up.
So I'm on the brakes. Now I'm feeling stick pressure. That nose is coming up, so now I'm on the rudders.
Cool.
And we're just going to hold it right there.
746, disregard 2 mile final.
There we go.
4 cleared for the option, say intentions follow.
Clear for the option, and we'd like to position back for another ILS for 746.
746 on the go, you can proceed on course.
Proceed on course on the go, 746.
All right, get your feet on the rudders because you're going to need a little bit of right rudder. Got the stick?
I got the stick.
Left hand, right hand throttle.
There we go.
Your airplane.
My airplane.
All right, there's your heading.
Nice.
A little bit of ground haze. So by now you guys are on autopilot, right? No, wait, that's the airlines.
We try to be on autopilot by 10,000 feet.
Well, hell, just from the time you arrived, it's been 20 minutes or so, half an hour. You'd still be in pre-flight briefing, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah.
You brief for what, a couple, 3 hours?
Just about, yep.
So they have flight plans and everything generated for you? It's just kind of reviewing through the stuff, or you guys got to sit down and plot all that out?
Well, the day before we do all the mission planning. We work with the mission crew for their requirements, and then the navigator will set up a flight plan for us, and then as co-pilot, my job is to review that flight plan, just head out on course now.
Yeah,
You approve this. So the navigator will drop a flight plan. I'll review that as a co-pilot, generate a Form 175, which is how we publish our flight plans in the Air Force. I'm not sure of the civilian equivalent. and then get the AC approval on that, and we'll send it in and get that filed.
And that's all day before? Or is that day
We
of?
generate it the day before, and then we'll actually file it the day of.
Right.
For
And then
any
you go,
last minute
the
changes.
briefing is kind of going through all that.
Yes.
So that's including sensors on here, sensors on there, or is that just kind of you get guidance from that from somebody else once you're in the air?
Sensors?
Yeah, I mean you got a big ass radar dish. You're using it for something, right?
Yes. Yeah, so that's all the guys in the back planning on their... Nice, thank you. Now I can hear better.
Oh, that's right. You got a whole group in the back there.
Yeah, we have anywhere from 0 to 35 people.
Now is that so you have an aircraft commander, right? That's the pilot. Is there a commander in the back that's running that crew?
There is.
And does he have input into? I mean, these guys can't be co-equal because that would be a nightmare, right? So this guy's in charge of the flying, this guy's in charge of the mission, but at some point there may be conflict there. Well, if Hollywood is engaged.
Exactly. Right. So definitely there can be the desire from the mission commander in the back to help out the fighter guys, help drive the mission. You know, especially if we're deployed, groups in contacts, and we're getting fighters on station or something. There can be a really strong desire from those guys to stay and help do the mission. However, as the aircraft commander, if we're out of fuel, we have to leave.
Right.
And it sucks having to turn your back on your guys, but we can't run out of fuel.
Well, you could get a tanker or whatever, but you still have to leave the area. Tanker's not going to fly into a hot area.
Right. And yeah, the tanker, you really hope that he's able there to meet you, get more fuel, so you can get back on station. But if there's bad weather, the tanker couldn't take off, the tanker broke, something along those lines. Sometimes our systems break, so we can't take fuel. What do you like to climb out at? What's your en-route climb?
Oh, you can take her to 3,500, 5,500, whatever you want. We're headed
speed-wise.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you're comfortable with.
Yeah, 80 seems to be doing pretty good.
So the tanker must be a lot of. I mean, the thing's not super responsive, right? It's not like this. There's a lot of this.
Right.
So you get behind that tanker. Got to be some rough air back there.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different aerodynamic phenomenons behind the tanker. The one I'm most familiar with is a KC-135. Haven't seen a KC-10 yet. Larger airplane, so the effects are a little more dramatic at times. But you have bow wave, which is the air coming off the front of your airplane hitting the
That was a problem with the C5 and the KC-135.
Yes.
It was just pushing them over.
Right. And then you have their downwash, which wants to push you away from their airplane and wants to slow you down. And then you also have their wingtip vortices, which you can actually use to help. So let's say we have a KC-135 right here in front of us, and we want to stay in the center. Well, for whatever reason, if I get us slightly off to the right, the wingtip vortices want to push us to the left.
It lifts that wing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to the right, I actually have to steer to the right into that vortice. We call it surfing the wave.
Okay.
Lock my position out there, and then slowly let out some of that aileron to allow it to push me back.
How big are these motions on the yoke? Is it like that, or just?
Right. So you're trying to make pretty small motions. This is about the extent of what you want to do, because on our flight control surfaces we have outboard and inboard ailerons, and we have inboard and outboard spoilers. In cruise, the outboard ailerons are locked down. And if you're making small movements, you're only using the inboard ailerons, which is all you really need. If you start having to make large corrections, you're throwing up those spoilers, so all of a sudden, now you have a lot of drag being generated, so now you need to add extra power to correct for the fact that you've thrown out the spoilers and you're slowing down.
So all this, when on the initial join, I mean, you're kind of approaching from a few miles back, right? A nice stabilized approach.
Right. Yep. We have a set speed schedule that we match so that everything's stabilized.
Yep. And presumably you get this thing torqued up enough, you just pull a little throttle back and kind of ease back, and let's take a fresh. So once you're on the boom, how long does it take to fill? Well, that'll vary by the load you're taking, but
it'll vary by the load. It can be upwards of 20 minutes.
Ooh, that's a workout.
Fuel load. Yeah, so that's usually the AC that's doing that. As the co-pilot, initially my responsibilities are flying the rendezvous, so meeting up with the tanker and then getting us into pre-contact, which is 50 feet away, stabilizing the airplane out, getting it trimmed up so that the AC can take over and he can move in there and take all the fuel that he
Now on
needs
the
to.
boom, you still need to, you may need to make turns, right?
Right.
Wow.
So, and that was actually a really cool experience I had the other day. You've done cloud surfing before, especially in your previous RVA. That was a blast. But I actually did that the other day in the AWACS behind the KC-135 because there was a cloud in our area. So the tanker started this 30-degree turn. Of course, I'm using references. We call them our artificial ADI. I'm using references completely off him, and all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, are we in a turn? And sure enough, we were avoiding this big cloud that was right up next to us. So my AC is like, yeah, take a look out the window for a quick second. We'll go up another 500 feet, level up there. And there we were, cloud surfing 50 feet away from another 300,000-pound airplane.
Now these controls are boosted, right? It's not like a DC-3 where you're not really having to fight it. It's just a matter of.
So that's one of the really cool things, the Boeing Airbus discussion is Boeings have always had mechanical flight controls. We got cables going to all of them. Yes, we have hydraulically actuated spoilers, which really help with the controls, especially when you're down low in the VFR pattern using 30 degrees of bank with flaps hanging out.
So you have more of a feel. You have a feel to it.
There's definitely a feel. Yeah.
With the Airbus, it's artificial, right?
Right. Exactly.
Now we can pull back. We'll cruise at about 5,000 RPM, and this is where the vernier is going to be kind of slow at first. It kind of really works more towards mid-range, but you're really, really close.
Nice.
So now I expect to see that at 5,500 always and forever.
Got it.
Plus or minus 0.
Absolutely.
For as long as I can remember to look at it, which is about 32 seconds these days.
There's a Air and Space Museum.
Oops.
All right, so he's downwind. Just hit your A and B one at a time and see what, we'll just do a quick ag check. It won't have changed significantly. Okay, that was a little rough. But you're at idle.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Okay. We can make it out in front of him.
All right, let's do it.
Parkway traffic, estimate 284 Delta Golf, taking runway 27. Traffic in sight.
You want to stay for one or get out of town?
What's the question?
Do you want to stay for a pattern?
No.
Okay.
We'll do that back.
Cool.
We'll go up to the island.
Oh, sweet.
I got it.
Your aircraft.
Let's get going. Guys. Oh, they land the stealth planes on 18 and 36. They can't be seen.
Nice.
Stealth technology even here. That's
Love
amazing.
that.
Yeah. All right, he's not even base yet, so we're easily good here.
We are in the green on the temps.
Yeah, we'll climb up a little bit.
Low pressure.
We'll go take a lap around the islands and then head back.
All right, cool.
I got a big restricted area over here.
Okay, for the nuclear power plant probably.
I think it's a Army base. They do some, they fire artillery, and so it's like a target range, or a shooting range kind of thing.
Okay.
So you stand a good chance of getting shot down if you fly through there.
Yeah, I guess that's overrated.
Yeah, it looks good in Hollywood movies, where you have, parachutes and ejection seats and lots of drama.
Yeah, and invincible people.
So we'll just extend out here and get some altitude under us.
Nice.
We can go to the airport if we can find it. Let's see. I think it's 3W2.
Agreed.
89 Delta, I think, is Kelly's Island.
Okay.
So yeah, Put Bay 3W2. So we're going to go direct to direct. Oh, look at that. See? It put it in there for me. Isn't that friendly?
Yeah, I love that.
Direct. Get back on the airplane. Get back. All right.
Nice.
And if we turn right now, we can avoid getting blown out of the air by the Army. See how it's in that kind of a
okay, yeah.
segment, orange slice kind of thing? That's as almost like a driving range. You can hook and slice, I guess, with a howitzer when you're just learning how. That's a theory. Don't hold me to it. And we can actually just fly along the coast. Cool. Rather than go out over the lake.
Yeah.
Just because we're still a little low. Stay near the airport.
It's nice. You move the stick and the airplane responds.
Yeah, it's going to ruin you for work. You're going to get back and you're like, what the hell happened to you?
Yeah.
You act like you're flying an F-18. you got to move the controls in this thing.
I mean, in a closed pull-up, you are literally throwing your weight, your body weight into the yoke to get it to turn and come up around.